Hello and welcome to the Big Blue Breakdown, the New York Giants edition for their 21-18 upset win over the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm Paul Tatino. Well, there were two huge headlines that came out of this game, one short-term and one long-term. The short-term one, well, first-round draft pick, rookie quarterback Jaxson Dart makes his first NFL start and leads the Giants to victory. That's the really good one. The one that's not so good. Pro Bowl wide receiver Malik Nabers suffered a serious knee injury. According to NFL Network and some other national reports, it potentially could be a torn ACL that would force him to miss the rest of the season. Be that as it may, the Giants will have to try to find a way to do without him for at least a while. We'll get more details from the team as the days ensue, but right now let's go over the plays, the things that do deserve mention after yesterday's ball game. Now, first up, we told you about Dart just a second ago, right? Well, in terms of NFL history, you got to go back to 2002 to find a rookie NFL quarterback who won his first career start against a team that was at least 3-0 or better. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of qualifications, but since 2002, that's when the Rams' Mark Bulger defeated the Raiders. Now, I'll give you one more. This is the first time in the NFL since 2008 that an 0-3 team beat a 3-0 team. That's when Kansas City knocked off Denver. Now, a little bit of Giants history here. It's the first time the Giants scored a touchdown on their opening drive at home since November of 2022 against Houston. So there were some real oddities, if you will, that occurred in this game in order for the Giants to come up with their first victory of the season, as they are now 1-3. The Giants, by the way, never trailed in this game, which is something that certainly has to be factored in because that all goes into the game flow. We'll just mention Jaxson Dart for one moment before we get to some of the other items because of the significance of Dart's victory. 13 of 20 for 111 yards, a touchdown pass, also ran 10 times for 54 yards with a 15-yard touchdown that capped off the Giants' opening drive. And impressive it was, 9 plays and 89 yards. Dart did not throw any balls in harm's way. None were considered turnover worthy or interceptable, if you will. And that may be one of the most important facets of this game because Dart did not panic. Head coach Brian Daboll had said all week, so did offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, that they had confidence that Dart would maintain his cool, hold on to his poise, and do enough to execute and give the Giants a chance to win. And that is exactly what he did. Now, let's go over some of the things that you have to feel the Giants coaching staff is really pleased about. On third downs, the Giants was 7 of 15 for a 47% conversion ratio. They did run for 161 yards in this game. Now, Dart ran for 54, so that's a big chunk out of the quarterback. But let's not forget that Cam Skattebo and Devin Singletary, the two running backs, combined for 107. And that is very significant because it kept the Chargers defense honest. Skattebo ran for tough yardage. 25 carries for 79 yards with a long of 16. Very important that he continued to pound away, help the Giants control the clock, help the Giants maintain a good tempo on offense, and again, enough to make sure that the Giants could be not just balanced, but even more than balanced with their run game. They had 42 runs in this game against only 21 passes and held the ball for 35 minutes. And when you're opposing a team like the Chargers that has Justin Herbert at quarterback and can light it up in the passing game, it's important to keep the ball away from them. The Giants defense limited the LA Chargers to 4 of 12 on third downs. That's only 33%. And the Giants did come up with 12 quarterback hits, 20 quarterback pressures, and 2 sacks. Now, on the other side of the ledger, the coaching staff is not likely to like these things that came out of the game. The offense was only 2 for 5 in terms of scoring touchdowns in the red zone. They had to settle for 2 field goals. In fact, they had 12 snaps from the 10-yard line or in during the course of the game. 8 running plays, 3 passing plays, and actually a 4th passing play if you include a shovel pass that went to Theo Johnson for a Jaxson Dart touchdown throw. They also had a 4th down conversion deep into Chargers territory that wound up with an incompletion when Wan'Dale Robinson dropped a looping throw from Dart. The defense gave up 152 yards rushing on 13 tries. Now, just to put this into a little more perspective as well, Justin Herbert had a 24-yard scramble where the field was just wide open. And late in the third quarter, Omarion Hampton, the rookie, ran for a 54-yard touchdown, broke through the line, excellent blocking by the Chargers, but then the deep safety, Tyler Nubin, looked like he got a late start and took a bad angle, as he was the one deep safety who had a chance to make the play, and he just couldn't catch up to Hampton. So those 2 plays, 24 and 54 yards, were very significant, big plays that you don't want to give up. Outside of that, the Chargers were still able to run 74 yards on 11 carries. So again, the rush defense was not as tight as the Giants would want it to be. However, because of all of the pressure on the quarterback and because the Giants did come up with 2 takeaways, and this is kind of the neutralizer, as former head coach Tom Coughlin always used to say, that's the one stat you can't afford to lose. Well, guess what? The Giants came up with 2 interceptions. Dexter Lawrence with a deflection of his own that he caught and ran deep into Chargers territory. And Drew Phillips, who off of a pressure by Brian Burns against Justin Herbert, forced an erratic throw that Phillips was able to intercept and run it deep into Chargers territory. So the Giants turned out to be +2 in the turnover margin because they didn't have any giveaways, despite a couple of fumbles. There was a fumbled snap, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then there was also a fumble by Russell Wilson on a hit. Again, Wilson was able to recover. So the Giants did not have any giveaways. Very, very significant. All right, so we're going to go to our game balls, and we will start on offense, where we're going to go to Andrew Thomas. And why am I going to do this? Well, because you have to give a game ball to Jaxson Dart just because of the historic nature of the win in his first NFL start. So that's kind of an automatic. So we're going to give out co-game balls, but that's a special one that Dart's going to get anyway as a souvenir. But beneath the covers, we're going to give a game ball to left tackle Andrew Thomas. Not only did he play the full game, 69 snaps, after playing only 28 snaps last week in his return after that Liz Frank injury from last season. Thomas comes up with a most critical fumble recovery. With about 6 minutes left in the third quarter, the Giants have a 13-10 lead. It's 2nd down and 9 for the Giants from their own 5-yard line. And there's a problem with the exchange. Center John Michael Schmitz hiking the ball to Dart, who is under center. the ball falls to the ground, and somehow Andrew Thomas from left tackle is able to scramble back and fall on it. Could you imagine? Had the Chargers recovered that ball at the 1-yard line, the Giants with a 13-10 lead would have had Los Angeles knocking on the doorstep. And in all likelihood, okay, let's not kid ourselves, the Giants would have given up the lead for the first time all day. And that likely would have given the Chargers such a momentum boost that it would have been difficult for the Giants to come back. So we're definitely going to have to give a game ball to Andrew Thomas in addition to a very special one for Jaxson Dart. On defense, wow, we could go to a whole lot of places here. But remember what we told you about the key stat of all, the 2 takeaways? Well, that's what we got to do. We got to go to Dexter Lawrence and we got to go to Drew Phillips for their 2 takeaways that were of such incredible significance. There is no way we could not give them game balls. We've been talking about how Dexter Lawrence needed to make more impactful plays because he's an all-universe player, has to play to his standard. Not that he was playing poorly, but he wasn't playing like Dexter Lawrence. Well, with under a minute to go in the first quarter, Giants are up 7-0. Justin Herbert goes back to throw, tries to throw a pass over the middle. Dexter Lawrence gets his hands on it, deflects it up. It comes down to him. He catches it and races 39 yards to set up the Giants' first and goal inside the Chargers' 4-yard line. Now, the Giants did have to settle for a field goal. But can you believe it? Early in the second quarter, the Giants are leading the undefeated Los Angeles Chargers 10-0 at that point. There's no way anyone's going to convince me that getting a lead in this game was not incredibly significant. It allowed the defense to be more stout and be more assertive and confident, and it also allowed the offense to play much more poised and under control without having to even think about coming from behind. The second interception, this one is courtesy of Drew Phillips, as we said. About 3.5 minutes left in the third quarter. And the Giants have a 13-10 lead. And wouldn't you know it, Dart goes back to pass. Brian Burns with significant pressure forces an errant throw, and it does get picked off by Phillips, who then races 3rd and 6, by the way, from the Chargers' own 45. Phillips races 56 yards, first down at the Chargers' 3-yard line. 2 plays later, Dart with the shovel pass to Theo Johnson, same play Kansas City's used for several years between Patrick Mahomes and tight end Travis Kelce. Giants get the 3-yard touchdown. They get the 2-point conversion as Scatterboo plunges in from the 1, and it's a 21-10 Giants lead with just about 3 minutes left in the third quarter. The Giants would never give up the lead in this game, but that right there gave them a 2-score advantage. So 2 huge takeaways by the defense, basically setting the offense up in an impossible position not to get points. They cash in with 1 field goal. Disappointing, I know. But then they do turn the other one into a touchdown. So, got to give the 2 game balls here. We're going to give out 2 co-game balls. We have to do it. Dexter Lawrence and Drew Phillips. Now, having said that, I just want to mention an honorable mention here because we have to do that too. The quarterback pressure was relentless on Justin Herbert. Between Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Brian Burns, the Giants wound up finishing with a total of 20 quarterback pressures in the game. And Brian Burns, once again, had another sack. A sack in each of the first 4 games of the regular season for Brian Burns, who is absolutely having a Pro Bowl caliber season. On special teams, we're going to give the game ball to punter Jamie Gillen. Had 3 of his 5 punts stuck inside the 20. Had a net of nearly 44 yards per punt. But here's the big one. With about 5.5 minutes left in the third quarter. Now, you'll remember the fumble recovery by Andrew Thomas that I just mentioned moments ago. Well, obviously, the Giants didn't do anything with that after they were forced to get that recovery at their own 1-yard line. So they had to punt the ball out of there. And Gillen booms a 69-yarder. And can't say enough about how he helped tilt the field there. Still had an 11-yard return to the Chargers' 41. But if you're Los Angeles and you've got the Giants backed up on a 4th down and 13 from the Giants' own 1-yard line, you're probably figuring you're going to take over on the Giants' side of the field. In fact, it probably wouldn't be out of the question to think that you might already be in field goal range. Well, Gillen hits a 69-yard punt. Huge punt. And so a special teams game ball to punter Jamie Gillen. We go to our gassers, and I'm sorry to say, but the Giants' only drop pass of the day becomes our gasser, and it goes to Wan'Dale Robinson. Incredibly unfortunate because the Giants had taken over the ball in the fourth quarter with about 11.5 minutes to go, right at midfield. And they go on a very methodical drive. They've got themselves a 3-point lead at 21-18. And you're thinking, okay, field goal, he's still only up by 6. You really got to get the touchdown. And they get a 1st down and goal from the 4. Scatterboo with a 3-yard run. Scatterboo up the gut, no gain. Dart gets hit behind the line for -2. So it's now 4th and goal from the Chargers' 3. Now, understanding that a field goal would only give the Giants a 6-point lead, they decide to go for it. Dart rolls to the right. He's getting pressured. And on the scramble drill, he finds Wan'Dale Robinson loose in the end zone, lofts a soft pass to him. Robinson goes up, has the ball right in his hands, and drops it just before the defensive back comes over to hit him. That 4th down incompletion left the Giants with only a 3-point lead. And that, of course, allowed the Chargers some life because there was over 5 minutes left in the game. And now they're taking over, only down by 3 points. So that's going to be the offensive gasser for the Giants in this one. Now, I'm going to go to the special teams gasser. We're going to go back to defense in just a minute. With about 7 minutes left in the game, in the 4th, the Giants wind up committing double penalties on a special teams play. And that's not something you really want to do. As I go back here, I want to make sure I got it. Was it third quarter? Might have been third quarter. I want to make, here it is. With about 7 minutes left in the third quarter, it's 4th and 9 from the Chargers' 33-yard line. And as Scott unloads a 60-yard punt to the Giants' 7, and Gunnar Olszewski does get a 15-yard return to the Giants' 22, getting them out of a dangerous situation. Well, unfortunately, this is right before that Andrew Thomas fumble recovery. This put the Giants in a deep hole because both Jones and Bozeman, Swayze Bozeman and Nick Jones, that is, are called for offensive holding on the punt return. So instead of the Giants having the ball at their 22 and trying to work out from there, the penalty forces them to be in a first down from their own 4-yard line. Jones's penalty was the one that was actually enforced. Bozeman's was declined. The Jones penalty was at the Giants' 6. They enforced it as a 3-yard or half the distance to the goal. Actually, it was at the Giants' 7. And so they were forced to begin their drive at their own 4, deep, deep, deep in a cavern. And again, fumbled snap, but Andrew Thomas recovered it, and then the exchange of punts as Gillen then retilted the field in the other direction. So we're going to go with Jones and Bozeman, both committing a penalty, although only Jones's was accepted. Very dangerous situation for the Giants, and they were able to escape. That's our special teams gasser. Our defensive gasser, I'm going to give him a mulligan and a pass on this. We're only going to make him run half a gasser because Abdul Carter had a terrific game with 9 pressures and 5 quarterback hits. But even when I talked to him after the game, he knew that he had made a terrible mental mistake that really helped the Chargers' cause. 48 seconds left in the first half. Chargers have it 4th and 2 from the Giants' 41, and in all likelihood, they were going to try to draw the Giants offside. It looked as though the whole stadium knew it, and instead of holding their water, the Giants did fall for the bait and committed the offsides. Mental mistakes will anger coaches much more than physical mistakes. And it was Abdul Carter, who again had a whale of a day. He was terrific yesterday, but he did have a mental error that was one he's not going to forget, because even after the game, he said he knew he had made a terrible mistake, and it allowed him to motivate himself even further to have a monster game the rest of the way. He jumps off sides, and then, wouldn't you know it, the Chargers take advantage, and a 36-yard touchdown pass to Quentin Johnston from Justin Herbert is the result of that automatic first down procured by the 5-yard offsides penalty. And all of a sudden, the Giants now are going into the locker room with only a 13-10 lead instead of a comfortable 2-score lead. So again, I'm going to kind of give Abdul Carter a mulligan on this one. We'll use it as a lesson learned. He already figured it out, and we'll allow him to maybe jog through half of a gasser instead of actually running for one due to the mental error. Well, that'll do it for this edition of the Giants Gameballs and Gassers. Again, they come up with their first victory of the season. They're now 1-3 as they knock off the Chargers 21-18. We will be back with another edition of the Big Blue Breakdown, but it's our live show. We'll be taking your chats, your phone calls, and your video calls. That's this Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, to go for at least 60 minutes and perhaps even 90, but that depends on you as we talk New York Giants football and they prepare for Sunday's game down in New Orleans against the Saints. Until then, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you next time on the Big Blue Breakdown.